Peni Parker is the best defense tank in Marvel Rivals. If you're on the defense side of any mission, stopping the escort, or trying to defend a certain point, you're gonna want Peni Parker as one of your vanguards. Unlike the other tanks, she's not made to be quite as much of a frontliner, and is more so designed around taking control of an area and stopping enemies from being able to assault it. Her basic ability fires her twin shoulder cannons alternating left and right. This effect has no reload time and infinite range, so you're just able to fire these things off non-stop in combat. Though each separate hit is not particularly significant, the non-stop fire actually ends up making a big impact. With no worry about ammo, you can constantly fire at low health targets that are trying to escape and eventually pick them off. Her right click ability sends a web out forward that also has unlimited range. When it makes contact with a target, it will bind and immobilize them for 1 second. Where if it makes contact with the ground, it will create a web strand at the location. Web strands are extremely important to Peni's play. At any time she's standing within a strand, she will gain constant healing as well as receive a temporary HP shield. This will bring her maximum HP from 650 up to 800. You can have 3 web strands out at a time, and new web strands will cause the oldest web strand to be removed. This web ability has a pretty low cooldown, and you're going to be wanting to fire these off quite often in combat. Shooting them towards the enemy backline, attempting to web their healers, causing them to have 1 second of being stunned, can be very detrimental to the enemy team. Also, if an enemy dive character has come in, hitting them with one of these webs is almost guaranteed to result in their death. Peni's F ability shoots out another type of web strand. This cannot be used to CC enemies, but if it hits terrain, it will cause a web to show up at that location and pull Peni towards it. It will also then attach Peni to that area. Peni's cursor will have a unique symbol below it that shows you how many meters you are away from your webbing. Once you're more than 10 meters away from your webs, if you stop moving, you'll instantly be pulled towards the web strand. So long as you continue moving, you can move past that maximum extent up to a maximum of 19 meters away. You can use this quite well as you're trying to peek out to enemies, shooting out a couple of shots or getting a stun out and then allowing the snap to return you back to safety. If enemies are trying to force you off of a point, you can put one of these web strands down at the point that you're trying to stay onto, and then if they're shoving you away, you'll be pulled back as soon as you stop moving. This is also Peni's main escape mechanism. If enemies are collapsing down on you and you need to get away, a quick snap F will pull you to a new location, and you can press F again to quickly detach and continue running away. Like all the other spider characters, Peni does have a wall run, but she's only able to wall run vertically. If you run up to a wall and press the space key, you'll begin this wall run. This can allow you to quickly get around terrain or get past enemies that are trying to chase you down and aren't able to chase you up whatever you're able to run up. Peni's E ability is Arcano Mines. This will put down little proximity mines that will dig into the location that they're placed. If any player comes within their range, they will detonate, dealing a decent chunk of damage. You get a stack of 4 of these, but they'll slowly replenish over time. The majority of the damage from Peni's kit is going to come from these mines, so you're going to want to be constantly putting them out while you're in combat. If you're shooting an enemy down, shooting Arcano Mines out towards them will cause you to kill them significantly faster. If an Arcano Mine is placed within the extent of any of her webs, they'll be invisible, where if they're placed out in the open, players can see them and avoid. Trying to hide your Arcano Mines in some of your webs when you've set up for a defense is extremely potent. Having little mines all over the place will reduce the chance that enemy divers will be successful. Peni's gameplay relies heavily on her shift ability, which puts down a spider's nest. The nest will create a big web area around her, which will build up her passive shield. It'll also begin to put out little spider bots that will hone in on any player that enters into your webbed area, chasing them down and detonating for some decent damage. Your nest has some HP, and you're going to want to defend it when it goes down, making sure it can last as long as it can and be able to deal out the damage. Enemy divers are going to want to try and find this thing and take it out, because as long as it's down, they're not really able to perform their dive onto any of your teammates that are within the web area. The amount of damage they'll take from your mines is just too high. This is actually an amazing Jeff counter. If your entire team is within your Arcano Mine web and Jeff tries to eat your team up, he'll be detonated by all of the spider mines and taken out rather quickly. When playing with his mines, there's 2 options. The most common is going to be placing it out of line of sight of enemies around an area you're trying to defend, and then trying to keep your enemies off it with your stuns and blocking attacks that are coming for it with your body, using the web heals to heal yourself up and keep everything safe. The second option is to quickly build it in the middle of the enemy team while you're charging into them. Their attacks might have to be turned to focus towards taking out your spider bot nest, and that'll allow your team to be able to get in and take the new position that they're looking for. Or if they ignore the nest, there's going to be so much damage going out that you should quickly win the objective. The Spider Sweeper is Peni's ultimate. She goes into a crazy mode, gaining temporary HP and gaining a burst of movement speed. As she runs around, she's going to constantly lay behind her webs as well as some of those Arcano Mines. These Arcana Mines will move along the webs, detonating on any targets that enter into the area. Her left click ability in this mode becomes a spider leg attack, hitting enemies with the new spider legs that have popped out of your back and knocking them up in the air. Her right click ability will be to drop down those Arcana Mines that are so useful and do so much damage. You're going to be spamming back and forth right and left clicks while you're in this mode, juggling enemies around and dropping Arcana Mines in the location that they're landing. The amount of disruption and damage that this mode causes is significant, and as long as you're able to stay within your webbing that you drop, you'll receive a major amount of healing and huge amounts of bonus health. Careful though, the windup on this you can be CC'd, and a quick stun as you're winding up will invalidate your ult and put it on 50% buildup. Also, while running around, you can be CC'd, so any CC abilities will stop you from being able to run. Things like the Eye of Agamotto will definitely be able to shut you down. Oftentimes, enemy players like Luna Snows will pop their ultimate when you try to pop yours. This is going to make it so that you don't actually end up doing very much damage, and you're just kind of disrupting the enemy team by juggling them. Whenever Venom's in the game, Peni gains the ability Armor Expulsion, which causes her to unleash a symbiotic black goo that knocks back enemies and deals damage over time. During Armor Expulsion, you're not able to activate any of your other abilities, with the exception of the F ability as an escape mechanism. Use Armor Expulsion when you've gotten into the enemy lines or when an enemy diver is on top of you to erupt, pushing them back and dealing a bunch of damage, then disrupting all targets around you. It can also be a really great way to defend your mines. If somebody has gotten onto your mine kit, use this Armor Expulsion to push them away and off of it and deal damage to them. At the start of the match, you're going to want to find the area that your team wants to defend. Identify the choke point that the enemy team is likely to be coming through, and find a slightly out of reach area nearby that choke point that you can put down your mine web. Constantly be putting out your spider mines in your webbing or out towards the enemy team depending on range. If your enemies are charging in at you, you're going to want to be shooting these mines out at them. If the enemies aren't, put them down in the webs in front of you. This is going to make sure that when the enemies do come in or when their divers slam down on your allies, there's a lot of secret damage coming for them. Constantly shoot your stun webs out at the enemy DPS or healers. Sometimes the tanks will be in a vulnerable position, like when their shields break or when they're trying to dive out as they've gotten low health, and hitting them with equipped webbing can allow you to take them down. Do your best to defend your webs, but don't sacrifice yourself to do so. If you die, the webs go away anyways, so if you're starting to get overwhelmed and you need to abandon your nest, you can easily back off and allow them to take it, or if you have to move away or move in, you can hit your left shift ability to pick up your nest, and that'll allow you to replace it with a shorter cooldown. Though Peni can struggle a little bit on the offense side of missions, that doesn't make her useless in these scenarios. You are able to push up on your enemy team with the webs, and it's much less likely they're willing to dive into you and take out your nest. Invalidating enemy divers is another one of Peni's best traits. So if you're playing into an enemy team with a lot of divers, Peni is going to make a huge difference for your backline members, as long as they're willing to stay within her web range. Don't focus in too hard on pushing as Peni if you're on the offense, and try and pay attention to your supports and backline players. It's your job to lay fire onto divers and to constantly be stunning any targets that come near, while placing your webs and giving your group an area of safety. When you use this all together, you're going to find Peni is one of the strongest tanks. She's really hard to take down, she's quite slippery, and the amount of damage that she's able to output with her web base is significant. Also notice when you're playing against better players, it becomes harder and harder to defend your mines. Figuring out how to place your spider nest and how to defend it appropriately based off the skill set of the players you're playing into is one of the most important skills you're going to have to figure out while playing Peni Parker. Every team is going to be a little bit different, so you're going to have to be able to adjust to different strategies. While Peni is definitely amazing at playing into a team of divers, she can really struggle if the entire enemy team is a backline sniper fest. So let's talk about Venom next time, who can really crash down on those backlines and be a total disrupting tank.
Sazaze.